Keeping your kids away from dodgy stuff on the internet can be a challenge. And over Christmas, there's going to be a whole raft of new phones, tablets, and consoles which our kids will be getting. So what can we do to keep them safe online? Here are 5 things that you can do to protect your kids. Now, let me just say that this advice is aimed primarily at kids that are 12 and under, but some of the advice would work for older kids too. This is more about stopping younger kids from stumbling onto something they shouldn't see. Older kids trying to get around security controls, that's a whole other thing. Firstly, although the excitement of seeing their faces light up as they unbox that device for the first time is precious, you've already probably gone wrong. Before handing it over, the device needs to be set up by you in advance so that we can lock down the experience for the child. Don't try to do it on the day, it'll be hectic. They'll want to use it now, and you will probably not come back to add the controls later. Now, on Apple devices, there is a screen time and a content restriction setting. Here you can set the ratings of books, apps, and TV content which they can view or download. You can also restrict access to adult websites, or you can block all websites except the ones that you allow. You can also choose who they get to interact with in any of those App Store games. On Android devices, there are fantastic content restriction settings here too. You've got the parental control settings, where here you set up a family link and then you have a dedicated Google profile for the child. It's a bit more complicated, but once that's done, you can then set the ratings of all the apps, games, TV contents, and any books which could be viewed or downloaded. Okay, so that's some help on personal devices, but what about shared devices like the smart TV in the lounge? Apps like YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and even Disney Plus have all got adult-rated content available. So what can we do here? Well, each of these platforms has the concept of profiles, which can either be secured with a PIN or the PIN's needed if you want to watch any adult content. Here you can make a dedicated child profile, which is always available without a PIN, whilst the adult profile needs a PIN to log into or to elevate to watch that content. Now what we do is we set the age ratings for the child profile. In Netflix, right here, we can set the profile maturity level based on film classification levels. So we can also choose to exclude specific programs if we really want to, regardless of the age range. So, tired of watching Baby Shark? No problem. In Amazon, we can set the film classification level again on the content that they watch. We can restrict purchases, and then also finally we can set a PIN for viewing any adult content. Disney Plus is probably the most comprehensive. We can set the content here based on a really narrow set of age ranges. YouTube has got some issues. Whilst you can easily create a profile which has content restrictions in place, if you've also logged into the device in an adult profile, then there's absolutely nothing to stop the child from switching from the kid login to the adult login. There's no PIN or anything. Similarly, if YouTube isn't logged in at all, there are no restrictions. So you can either log in only as a kid's profile and never an adult profile on that device, or potentially you could remove the YouTube app completely, install the YouTube Kids app, and then lock the TV with a PIN so that they can't install any other apps. Okay, let's talk games consoles. Xbox is first up. Microsoft have got the Family Safety app on Xbox and Windows. Now, genuinely, I think they've gone out of their way to make this really awkward. You have to create an email account for the child, and you have to get all that set up before you can add them to the family group. It's a real pain. But once you've done it, you can finally start to control screen time, set content ratings, set ages for games and apps, and you can even set up content filters for websites. On the PlayStation, it's a lot easier. You do have a couple of options. You can set up a family group, a bit like on the Xbox, and you can set up profiles if you've got more than one person in the household. Or you can just set a PIN in the family and parental control settings. Now you can just simply set the restrictions that you want, and they can be unlocked with the PIN as needed. So you can set age restrictions on content, you can restrict web browsing, and you can even decide whether you can use the DVD or the Blu-ray player to watch movies. The Switch parental controls are baked into the device and into the setup to get you to use the Switch Parental app. Here you can again set time limits, content restriction levels, and approvals. Absolutely everything is locked to a PIN, and it always defaults to the most restrictive settings, which is fantastic. Another option outside of devices is actually to speak with your internet provider. You can actually speak to your internet provider to set an adult restriction lock, but of course that would affect every single device in your home broadband connected to your Wi-Fi. But if you wanted to set a global block, this is a great option. It's also worth saying that you can do this with your mobile phone carrier as well. So if you've got some devices for older children, you could also set that restriction at the carrier level just by speaking to the provider. Alternatively, you could invest in a different internet and Wi-Fi router. This would give you more granular control. And so a great example here is the Eero, although there are many alternative options. But here you can nominate which devices you want to have a family profile applied to it. Once you've set that family profile, you can block specific apps, you can pause internet access, you can even pause internet access on a schedule. So you could enforce bedtimes if you like and say, hey, the device doesn't have access to the internet between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. It's entirely up to you. Lastly, talk to the kids. I've got kids in primary school age who are 4 and 8, and we've talked openly about how to use their own profiles when they open up the apps on the smart TV. They know what to do, they don't browse around YouTube unattended. The older one is also starting to use the PC now, so we've applied that family-friendly profile on the Eero router to stop him from accidentally wandering into the wrong things. A great example of this is that he's currently reading all of the Captain Underpants books right now, and then he's Googling for pictures of Captain Underpants. I think you can easily see how that can go wrong without any controls in place. So we didn't have time in this video to dig into the exact configuration of every single one of those settings, but what we'll do is we'll post some really helpful links down below for each of those particular platforms, and you can go ahead and check those out. The last thing I would finally say on this is that whenever you set those pins for any of those devices, do not ever communicate those to the children.